Hey guys, let's knock out this review. Number one, let's find a positive and negative angle coterminal. Means all around the circle, remember? So this is in radians. The 5 pi over 3 is in radians. So I'm going to add and subtract 2 pi. Don't forget how we did that to get a positive one. Remember, just double the bottom. If I double 3, I get 6 pi over 3. Just add the numerators together. Get 11 pi over 3. That's the positive one. The negative one, we're just going to subtract 6 pi over 3. So if I do 5 pi minus 6 pi, that is negative 1 pi over 3. So you got. Number two, convert to radians, leave in terms of pi. Anytime you turn in degrees to radians, you divide by 180. Don't forget to pi with your answer. Just let your calculator reduce that fraction. You're going to get 7 pi over 9, and that's it. Number three, convert 4 pi over 3 to degrees. Remember, pi radians really means 180 degrees. So I'm just going to put a 180 where the pi is, divide by 3. End up with 240 degrees. Number four, oh my gosh, negative 240 to radians. That's what we just did, by the way, backwards. So I'll do the work though, just in case it's not the same tomorrow. Divide by 180, put a pi with it. The same thing we did number two. I'm going to end up with a negative 4 pi over 3, which is not a surprise because that's the same problem as number 3. Number 5, in a circle with a 140 centimeter radius, an arc subtends 180 centimeters from an angle of how many radians? You need to remember the formula for radians is theta equals S over R. And remember, S is arc length and R is radius. It's asking me here how big the angle is. So the arc, it says, is 180 centimeters. The radius is 140 centimeters. So if I reduce that as far as I can, I'm going to get 9/7 for my angle in radians. You can also punch it in your calculator, which I'm getting out right now. Be patient with me just a second. I'm going to punch in 9/7. It doesn't really say if it wants a decimal answer or not, but usually radians, they put in decimal. So we'll go, it is 1.2857. That's the decimal I'm getting there. Right, number 6, find the exact function value. I'll remember, do reference angle first. Let's just remember, drop the top. Make that pi over 3. Cosine pi over 3, if you look at your circle, that's 1/2. Then you got to figure out what quadrant it's in. 4/3 is really 1 1/3, which puts us in quadrant 3. Cosine is x. X is negative in quadrant 3, so it's negative 1/2. Tangent negative pi over 4. The reference angle is just pi over 4. Right, tangent power 4 is 1 because the sine and cosine are the same thing. Negative power 4 puts me in quadrant 4. And because the signs are different, remember tangent's y over x. And because the signs are different, you get a negative when you divide. Number 8, the reference angle is pi over 6. Check out your circle. Sine pi over 6 is 1/2. Now we got to figure out the quadrant. 11/6 is really 1 and 5/6, which is almost 2 pi, which means I'm in quadrant 4. Sine is the y coordinate. The y coordinate is negative in quadrant 4, so I get negative 1/2. Number 9, use the calculator in radian mode, so check your mode there. Make sure you're in radians. And it says find out what tangent of 1.3 is. That's just straight up punching in your calculator, but please make sure you're in the right mode because if you're not, you'll get the wrong answer even though it's an easy problem. So 3.6021 to 4 decimal places. Don't forget it says 4 places there. Number 10, now we're going to some review, some trig review and just regular review. Getting close to semester exams, so it's good to be doing these. I'm going to take number 10 and multiply everything by the LCD. I have 4, 8, and 3. Take the biggest one, take the 8, and do multiples. Like 4 goes into 8, but 3 doesn't. So 8 times 2 is 16. 4 goes into 16, 3 doesn't. 8 times 3 is 24. That's what I'm using because all these numbers are going to 24. When you multiply all 3 by 24, watch what happens. 4 goes into 24 6 times. So I'm doing that 6 times the 3, which is negative 18. This one, 8 goes into 24 3 times, I'm getting negative 15. And then 3 goes into 24 8 times, 8 times 2 is 16. And one step, you have no fractions left, so looking pretty good. I'm going to take that 16 over there. That's going to give me negative 34x when I move it because it will become a negative 16. Divide by negative 34, be careful here. If you divide by negative, first of all, your greater than changes to less than, and a negative divided by positive is a positive. Number 11, simplify. This is square, multiply double square. When you square a square root just goes away, you get 5. Multiply together double. If I multiply those two, you're allowed to multiply radicals. You just multiply them like you see it, but then double it. If you double something, you multiply by 2. So I'm going to put a 2 in front there. Then I'm going to square the square root of 3. Now, when you square something, it becomes positive automatically. So that's where that plus 9 comes from. And then I'm going to add the 5 and the 9 and get 14 minus 2, 115. Number 12, it says find of these two functions, find f minus g of 2. Did one of these like this last week. Put a 2 in there and a 2 in there and see what we get. So if I put a 2 into f, that's going to be 4 minus 2, which is just 2. If I put a 2 into g, 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. It says do f minus g, so I'm doing f minus g. Gives me negative 5. 13, write an equation for a function with this shape. So it's an x squared. It's going to have a squared in it. It's been reflected across the x. So I'm starting here. Y equals reflected across the x means there's a negative in the front. A vertical stretch of 3 means there's a 3 in the front. Shifted right 4 means there's a minus 4. And so remember, it's opposite of what you think. That's where your square goes. No work, but you got to kind of know what you're doing there. Okay, make sure you got that gesture. We'll do that in class before the test, maybe for remind me. Number 14, find the inverse. Remember, first step of inverse is take the x's and y's and switch them. So I'm going to switch those around. And then I got to get the y by itself. So first step is, well, it's really x over 1. So I'm going to cross multiply here, 3 times x and then 1 times this side. Again, I'm trying to get the y by itself. So I'm going to move the 5 over. And the last step is I'm going to divide both sides by 2. Don't forget the f negative 1 to kind of show that's your answer. So if I divide both sides by 2, I get that right there. And number 15, given that cosine of 7/20, find the other. Okay, I think most of y'all are going to kind of want to do this. Let's just draw a triangle. That's not going to be a very good one. Where you put your theta is up to you. I usually always put mine down there, just to be consistent. Cosine, remember, is adjacent over hypotenuse, which means that's 7, that's 25. Now, that's a famous one. It's a 7, 25. If you don't know the other side, obviously go ahead and do your Pythagorean theorem, but we know, well, some of us may know, it's going to be 7, 24, 25. That's one of the famous ones. Okay, so let's put the answers in here. First one says secant. Secant's reciprocal of cosine. I knew that one anyway. That's 25, 7. That color's not showing up very well. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, which is 24 over 25. Cosecant is reciprocal of sine. Tangent's opposite over adjacent, which is 24 over 7. Cotangent is reciprocal of tangent, 7/24. 16, solve the triangle. This is TOA. A is 14.5. B is 19.2. So I need to find big A, big B, I'm saying big, it means angle A, angle B, and side C. So I'm going to find angle A first. So what they gave me is the opposite of A and also adjacent to A. So I'm going to do tangent of A is opposite over adjacent. Okay, now my calculator is still in radian mode from the last one of the previous problems, so I'm going to make sure it's in degrees now. And I'm going to just punch in. Remember, if you're looking for an angle, it's inverse tangent or second tangent, 14.5 divided by 19.2. And I'm getting, let's go nearest degree, 37 degrees for A, which means I can find B just by doing 180 minus 37 minus 90, just subtracting those from 180, you get 53 degrees there. So all in is little c, and you have two options for little c. Technically, you could do Pythagorean theorem, which I know some of you do. I'm going to do the trig since that's what we're studying. So I'm going to go with sine of A. Oops, I know what A is now. A is 37 degrees. So sine of 37 degrees equals the opposite side over C, because C is the hypotenuse. Now, because my C is on the denominator, I'm just going to divide 14.5 divided by sine 37. I'm getting 24.09. I'm going to go around to 24.1. And there it is. So 16 is SOHCAHTOA. Okay, 17. Two more to go. Determine the intervals in which the function is increasing, decreasing, and constant. So increasing means the graph is going up from left to right. And remember, use x coordinates only. So the x coordinate right here is -5, and the x coordinate right there is +1. That's where it's increasing from. So I'm going to go -5 to +1. And then it is constant, which means that the line is flat. It's not increasing or decreasing from, +1 right there to, looks like that's 3. Boom. And then the graph starts going down. It's going down from 3 to 5. And that's it. That's all you got to do there. And the last one. Did this earlier in the test, except we did it with radians. So quick review on if we have one with degrees. Find the reference angle. How far is 330 away from the x-axis? It is 30 degrees. That's the first answer. And then what's sine of 30? You can use your circle. What is sine of 30? Sine of 30 is 1/2. Now, what quadrant are we in? 330 is very close to 360, which means we're in quadrant 4. Sine is y. Y is negative in quadrant 4. And guys, there you have it right there. All right, hope that helps. Study hard. Do great. Cheering for you. See you tomorrow.